Welcome to day 3 of our faith building challenge here at Faith Zone. For the past 2 days, I was giving you some passages of scripture which I asked you to go and read, reflect, and pray upon. But today I'm going to take a slightly different approach. I'm going to go a gear up and begin by stating the fact that building your faith in God is not going to happen overnight. It is a process that is going to take time, commitment, perseverance, and effort on your part. It is going to test your character, so you ought to be strong. So I want you to look at the process of faith building, just like we would look at how someone builds a house. You don't just think of building a house today and then tomorrow you start building. That is not how it works. There's a lot that you ought to consider first. You know that there's a lot of planning that goes into building a house. So for instance, you would look at what type of house you want to build, how big the house you want to build is, how many floors, if any, will the house have, where are you going to build the house? Do you already have the land on which to build the house? Approximately how much in cash would you need to complete building the house? Do you already have a plan or a blueprint of the house? Those are some of the questions that you ask yourself before you start building a house. You put all these factors into consideration in order to maximize your chances of success in completing the house building project. Because you don't want to start building a house and then fail to finish it because you realize at a much later stage that you've run out of budget, for instance. That would obviously be a setback, and you don't want to go through that path. You want your project to run smoothly and be completed on time. That would mark its success. So I'm saying the same approach that you use when intending to build a house is the same approach that you must use when intending to build your own faith. Remember that whatever needs building takes time. Could be building your confidence, building your faith, building a business. You don't build a business in a day. It takes time, even years. Which means that there's a lot also that you need to consider when intending to build your faith. You have to ask yourself a few vital questions. What is my current relationship with God? How was my past relationship with God like? Why do I want to build my faith now? Or what is driving me to build my faith right now? And the emphasis is on why now? How committed am I in growing my faith in God or in getting closer to Him? What am I willing to give up in order to grow my faith? For me, these are what I refer to as faith testers, which obviously you have to answer in your heart. You don't have to tell anyone. You just have to answer them on your own, in the inner confines of your heart. Those questions are going to help you to build a strong faith. Those are the basis on which you are going to build a strong faith. And you ought to be honest with yourself when responding to those questions. Because your reasons for wanting to build your faith must pass that litmus test. We don't want you to build your reasons for building your faith on fake ground or selfish reasons. If your faith is built on selfish reasons, then it is not a good faith. It is not faith at all. Because selfish reasons for building the faith are not going to work. Not now, not ever. They won't sustain your faith for long. Someone might ask, are there any selfish reasons that on which someone can build a faith? Yes, they are. For instance, you might want to build your faith because you want to receive something from God. Or you want to please your partner or your spouse or your parents. Or probably you are afraid of going to hell. All those reasons are selfish. Those reasons are unacceptable reasons for building your faith. Because true faith trusts in God and believes in Him. True faith believes in God's will. It follows God out of love and surrender instead of what God can give in return. When you want to build your faith because you want to please somebody else, then you're not building a faith. Because faith must come from you. It is something that comes from within, not from without. So self-examination or self-assessment is critical now before we take too many steps forward in our journey to spiritual transformation. Before we take too many steps into the construction of our faith, we ought to examine ourselves. Just like Socrates said, an unexamined life is not worth living. Examine your reasons for wanting to build the faith. That's a very good starting point, which we are taking on right now. So I would like to challenge you today to ask yourself a few questions. The first one would be, why am I building my faith? You must have a reason for building the faith. What do I hope to achieve in my faith building journey? And here you ought to be honest with yourself. Answers to these questions will give you clarity and direction on your spiritual journey. When you are clear and have a direction to which you are going, then it will be easier for you to even get there. When you answer these questions, you are like someone who is building their house on a rock. Your house is a strong foundation. But if you ignore these questions and just say, no, I want to develop the faith, I want to grow in faith, I want to grow in faith, then you're just like someone who is building their house on sand, on quicksand. When the rains come and the wind blows, the house will fall because it does not have a strong foundation. Even faith ought to have a strong foundation, and that is the beginning, that is the starting point of a strong foundation. We begin by assessing ourselves. So you ought to assess yourself, you ought to examine yourself and see why you are building the faith. Because God is inviting you into a real growing relationship and not just a belief that is based on what He can do for you. What if He doesn't do anything for you? Then you quit the faith. What if you don't receive anything from God? Which means you are going to abandon the faith. Your faith is going to die. A natural death because you did not get what you thought you would get. You want to grow in faith that endures. Even when your faith or even when your prayers are not answered, you will still keep the faith because you, from the beginning, had sound reasons for wanting to be faithful to God. You want to totally surrender to God in all things. So today I will leave you with a passage from Hebrews chapter 11 verse 6, which says, "And without faith it is impossible to please Him. For whoever would draw near to God must believe that He exists and that He rewards those who seek Him." You must believe that God is there, that He exists, and that He cannot be bought, that He cannot be deceived. You cannot come to God seeking to be close to Him because you want to benefit something materially. It does not work like that. God is asking for a real relationship, an enduring relationship that is going to carry you throughout your entire life. So I want you to read on your own and reflect on that passage, Hebrews 11 verse 6, and hear what it says. Write in your journal. Write your reflections there. Write your prayer there. And then we'll meet tomorrow for day 4 as we proceed with our talk on how to build a strong faith. Thank you very much for watching this video. Stay blessed. See you in the next one.